Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's Last Post ceremony. My name is Lexa Peterson, and joining us today from the Australian Army is Captain Candice Prebenno. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. The live stream of this ceremony is made possible by the Returned and Services League of Australia and the RSL and Services Clubs Association. We welcome members who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the pool of reflection by visitors to the memorial and students on behalf of the following schools from New South Wales: Inner Sydney Montessori School from Balmain and Canowindra Public School. Australia's Federation Guard is the tri-service ceremonial unit of the Australian Defence Force. They provide a ceremonial presence at civil and military events and during visits to Australia by foreign dignitaries. The Guard will now dismount the catafalque party from the tomb of the unknown Australian soldier. If you're able, please stand and join in singing the national anthem. Students, please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 103,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the pool of reflection.
Today we remember and pay tribute to Private Thomas David Ferricks. Thomas Ferricks was born on the 25th of September 1894 in Maryborough, Queensland. Known as Tom, he was one of 9 children born to Michael Ferricks, a watchman at the local iron foundry, and his wife Mary. Tom received his education at Albert State School and became a keen sportsman, playing on the local junior football team. At the outbreak of the First World War in 1914, he was working as a labourer at an iron foundry operated by Messrs Walker Limited. Tom Ferricks and his brother Austin enlisted in the Australian Imperial Force on the 23rd of March 1916. Their decision to enlist was notable as they were the nephews of Queensland Labor Senator Miles Aloysius Ferricks, who protested Australia's involvement in the war. Tom was assigned to the reinforcements of the 52nd Battalion and began a short period of training in Australia. Private Ferricks embarked for active service later that year, sailing from Brisbane on the troop ship Borara in August. After several weeks at sea, Ferricks arrived in England. He proceeded to camp to continue training alongside his new comrades, and after a short stay in hospital, he embarked for the Western Front in January 1917. He joined the rest of his unit at the end of the month in the midst of a freezing winter. Ferricks' arrival on the front was marked by the German strategic withdrawal to the fortified Hindenburg Line. Their retreat was eagerly followed by Allied units which seized their opportunity to push the enemy back. In advancing, however, their units were confronted by well-prepared rear-guarded defences and booby-trapped towns, resulting in a series of bloody clashes. Ferricks took part in his first major battle in the war when his unit was involved in an attack near the village of Norroy in April 1917. Attacking in the snow, it captured its first objective, but later came under shell fire and suffered heavy casualties when called in to mop up the village after the 50th Battalion's advance. The 52nd Battalion saw major action later that year when it was moved to Ypres salient in Belgium. It was here that Private Ferricks would take part in the Battle of Mézines. The battle began in the early hours of the morning of the 7th of June 1917, when 19 mines laid underneath German lines were detonated. The explosion destroyed the enemy's front line, creating hundreds of massive craters. Despite the overall success of the operation, which was consolidated after 7 days that followed, Allied units suffered nearly 25,000 casualties. Of these, nearly 7,000 were Australian. Among them was Private Tom Ferricks, who was killed in action on the first day of the attack. Lieutenant Revenal, who commanded B Company of the 52nd Battalion during the attack on Mézines, wrote to the Ferricks sisters. He was killed in action on the battlefield of Mézines and buried in a soldier's grave by myself and several of our company. I trust it will lighten your sorrow by knowing he died bravely for king and country. A true man's death against fearful odds in a battle where we were the victors. He was a fine, fearless soldier, liked by officers and men alike. Dear little sister, please accept my sincere sympathy and always remember that your brother has given the greatest price. Greater love hath none. Private Ferricks' grave was lost during the subsequent fighting in the region. Today he is commemorated on the Menin Gate Memorial in Ypres, among more than 50,000 others who have no known grave. His family paid tribute to him in a memorial notice placed in the Maryborough Chronicle, which read, "Forget not the soul of the young and brave. He knew that he might fall. He sighed at the thought of a soldier's grave. He followed duty's call." Private Tom Ferricks was 22 years old. His name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my right, amongst 62,000 Australians who died serving during the First World War. A photograph of his name listed on the Menin Gate Memorial is displayed today beside the Pool of Reflection. This is but one of many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Private Tom David Ferricks, who gave his life for us and for our freedoms in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the Ode and sounding of the last post.
They shall not grow old as we who are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Catapult party, present, up! Catapult party, shoulder up.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget.
Catapult party, inward, stop. Catapult party, quick, left.
We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozieres or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over, but in Australia they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of the director, staff and volunteers, thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today and for your continued support during the memorial's development project. We wish you all a very pleasant evening.